Okay, ZBA, we are live, we are recording, and you are good to go.
Okay, welcome board members and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals work session for February 8th, 2022. Today we have some post-hearing decisions to make, starting off the bat. And I'll read the first one into the record. The first post-hearing decision we're making is S&C Property Trust at 40 Hedges Banks Drive, East Hampton. Suffolk tax map number 300-035-02-06. The size and location is 40,199 square feet at 40 Hedges Banks Drive in East Hampton. And the description is to construct 40 linear foot set of bluff stairs and allow fencing to remain on a parcel of land containing bluffs and beaches. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, variances from 255-440, coastal setbacks of the town code, and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. A 56-foot variance is required to allow the fencing to remain 44 feet from the bluff crest, where a 100-foot setback is required. The zoning district of A resident zone, X flood zone. Secret class is type 2. And I believe this is in member Brenneman's district at the time. So Tim, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board will recall that the hearing was on October 26th and that we're working from a SASCUS survey dated May 27th, 2021. Also working from a Bruce Noggle stair drawing dated November 16, 2020, I believe. And it's A002 down in the bottom right there. So thank you for that. The property in question is located on Hedges Banks Drive and it fronts Gardiner's Bay. Property was originally developed in 1988. And the determination established a 50-foot scenic easement. A request for bluff stairs and a platform was denied in 1989. The home was acquired by the current owner in 2020. It was ineligible for a CO because the revegetation plan and scenic easement fencing had not been installed per the 1988 determination. The new owner has since revegetated and the fencing has been installed in compliance with that determination. The applicant was represented by David Kirst. He pointed out that there are a total of 10 private and 1 public stair access ways near this property on Hedges Banks. 6 of them are to the north, including the next 3 properties to the north, and 4 to the south, plus the public access to the immediate south. He also noted that the fence was required by the prior board determination and was placed there and intended to be a clear line of demarcation for the scenic easement. The original application, which was back in '89, was denied because the platform and the stairs were not centered to the property. During the hearing, 2 issues were surfaced in addition to the relief requested. One was a wooden viewing platform to the rear of the property, and that there was evidence of irrigation within the scenic easement. The TAM noted that the easement was closer to 40 feet from the bluff crest, but during the hearing, that was revised to approximately 45 feet from the bluff crest. Discussion that evening centered on possible mitigation associated with the stairs. Nrsp in this case relates to protecting the bluff face and looking for mitigation associated with the variance. We received a letter dated November 12th from David Kirst. He was agreeable to a a 5-foot additional vegetated buffer that would be to the southern side of the current fencing, and that would presumably bring the scenic easement back to 50 feet. In addition to that, agreeable to covenant that the fencing would be made of wire or other material which would not substantially screen the view, which was a request of the board. Also agreeable to remove the irrigation, and finally to remove the platform, which he described as a play structure used to reach a zip line.
Tim, you mind if I bring up a technicality?
That I misspoke when I said NRSP?
No,
Yeah.
it's that the added vegetation is not extending the easement to where it is. It's just increasing the buffer.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry.
Yep. Okay. With regard to the variance, it's 56 feet for the fencing. And I think, given the circumstances here, that fencing meets all of our variance standards. We can differentiate this variance because it was required by the 1988 determination. It was designed to be a separation between the lawn and the scenic easement. And as mentioned, the applicant is agreeable to covenant the fence to remain a wire or other material which would not screen the view. The NRSP for the stairway access, again, I believe this meets our NRSP standards. The mitigation offered, which includes the 5 additional feet of vegetated buffer landward of the fencing and the removal of the irrigation, I think is helpful. In Western Pennsylvania, we would refer to the stair issue as as a horse that's already been out of the barn. We have stairs up and down this stretch of front, and even though I think we'd all prefer not to see more stairs, I don't see any way that, given the number of stairway accesses that have been approved by this board and by the, both through hearings and through administrative proceedings, I just think that we're on the hook here to approve the stairway here. The one thing I would say is related to the elevated platform. I'm not convinced that structure is really an impact to the bluff. And I'm not sure it may need a variance for approval. So if that's the case, then I think we have to accept the offer to have it removed. If it doesn't need a variance, I could live with that still being there. It didn't offend me. So we can talk about that as a group, but in my view, I would approve this application. I think it's got the elements that we're looking for here to mitigate and offset the variance and the NRSPs that are requested.
Thank you, Tim. Who wants to go next? Ed, would you like to go?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Member Brenneman. Having visited the site, it was pretty obvious that the fence that's initially something that you want to take as immediate concern was placed there by a previous a ruling by our board or zoning board in the past, and that it's really not in particular to me in any way offensive in its location, given the fact that it was placed there by another board. So when you're there and you see it, and the fact that they're willing to make whatever adjustments necessary, was pointed out by Member Brenneman, is fine. I think that the irrigation that we had seen at the time was described, I believe, by the owner's rep at then as having been temporary to help with the revegetation. They're agreeing to remove that was, of course, a positive. And the fact that they were willing to remove that elevated structure, and it is obviously a plaything but nonetheless, as he says, if it requires a variance, and given the fact that it was pointed out as it was by the planning department and that it was volunteered by the applicant to remove it, I think we should allow it to be removed. And I don't have a problem accepting this as it is. I think that Member Brenneman covered it fairly well. It's pretty much a lot of pre-existing conditions. I think the addition of the buffer makes us feel a little bit better about the distance from the crest of the bluff, the additional buffer of vegetation. So I'm in agreement with Member Brenneman that I would be willing to approve this application.
Thank you, Ed. Terry? Terry,
You
might
may be on mute.
Yeah, okay. Even my iPad asked me. All right. Yeah, I'm basically in agreement on everything. And now the stairs there, though, those are not two platforms or anything that are indicated, right? So
No, those are landings to do with the transition.
Yeah, okay. All right. As far, I'm in agreement on the fencing, on the 5-foot buffer, and the variance for the stairs. As far as the platform, I think definitely it should be removed, and that's the way I feel on it. And that's about it, right? There's nothing else to cover on that. But back to all right. I would have preferred the fence moved back, but they're not offering to do that, and I think as for what they did offer, that's enough mitigation for me. So I too will approve it, except the platform does have to be removed.
Thank you, Terry. And I know our new member is not going to, what's the right
Abstaining.
word? Abstaining, because she was not part of the zoning board at this time. So, and board members, I do agree with the assessment of the approval on this, and I do think that the applicant's willingness to increase the buffer, get rid of the irrigation, and cover the fence is important to this application. So therefore, I do approve it as well. Thank you. You okay, council, on that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So next we have 376 Bleecker Street at 78 Seaside Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-032-07-23.1. The size and location is 40,000 square feet at 78 Seaside Avenue in Seaside Shores, lots 5 and 6. Block 601, Montauk. The description is to demolish a one-story residence and construct a 2,693 square foot, two-story residence swimming pool and approximately 602 square foot of first-story decking, roof deck, and 168 square foot of shed on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and variances from 255-440 minimum wetland setbacks of the town code and any other relief necessary. The following wetland setback variances are required. 1, 2, and 3 variances of 49.3 feet, 16 feet, and 49.6 feet are required to construct the residence swimming pool with terrace and shed 50 foot 7 inches, 84 feet, and 50.4 feet, respectively, from wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required. Or a 66-foot variance is required to install a sanitary system 84 foot from wetlands where 150-foot setback is required. And 29 feet variance is required to allow land clearing 21 foot from wetlands where a 50-foot setback is required. The zoning district is B residence zone X, flood zone X, and the secret class is type 2. Who had Bleecker Street?
I
That
did.
was Ed.
Okay, Ed. This was a complicated one.
Yeah. This went on for a while. I'll start by just saying that the updated survey is from November 11th, 2022. The lot size is 40,000 square feet. It has 100 foot of frontage on Seaside Avenue. Our hearing for this was on August 24th, 2021, and it was our initial review of the project. Start with, this is a very sensitive portion of Montauk. We know that these Seaside Avenue applications come in front of the board, have been coming in the board on a fairly regular basis, and that this is an area that is dominated with significant wetlands throughout, and that has drawn a lot of attention for all the correct reasons. The way in which we develop it, the way in which we use it, and the way in which we protect the environment. On that first hearing, that first night that we met, we had an active discussion of the applicant with the applicant's representatives, and they asked to be allowed to amend certain portions of the proposal, and a continuation of the hearing was scheduled for October 26th. At that hearing, at that first hearing, a proposed easement on the western portion of the parcel was discussed and eventually agreed upon by the town planners and the applicant. The second hearing, the second time we got together with the continuation, was on October 26th. Review of the submission by the applicant modified the scope of the project and eliminating the proposed pool, shed, a reconfiguration of the house which graded shape by adding 50 square feet in GFA, which took it from the initially proposed 2345 square feet of the August submission to 2,392 square feet. But at that hearing, we also focused on the need created by the design of the proposed sanitary system for the establishment of a mound to cover the system successfully and is in its suggested location on the east side of the proposed residence. Several members of the board agreed that we hoped that the applicant would consider alternative designs that might reduce the amount of fill that would be needed to cover the sanitary system, and asked for a more complete analysis by an engineer as to whether the current design could be modified in some way. Primary in our concerns at that time, and indeed throughout the hearing process, was trying to ascertain whether or not the installation of the system as designed would unduly exacerbate the problem of flooding on Seaside Avenue and the adjoining Miller Avenue, where flooding has been an issue and has been addressed by several residents of the community, both in calling in meetings and by letters we've received to the East Hampton Building Department. With that in mind, we allowed for, with certain reservations, we allowed for a third hearing, which took place on December 7th, 2022. At that time, the applicant agreed to have the configuration and elevation of the sanitary system. They'd already agreed to have the configuration and elevation of the sanitary system reviewed by Nrsp Engineering. At that time, Catherine Maresca appeared before us to explain that everything that could be done to lower the sanitary system and still allow the system to function properly had been considered, and that through revegetation of the disturbed areas and with the addition of 3 dry wells in the parking area below and to the east of the system, that an effort was being made on the part of the applicant to absorb the effects of up to what was considered to be a potential 3-inch rainfall and what it might produce. Additionally, a discussion of whether or not the sanitary system might be located to the south or west showed that any movement in those directions would bring the system closer to wetlands, and that was not preferred by the board or by the planning department. Along the way, the 2 of the variances that were required initially, one for a swimming pool and one for an exterior shed that was to be to the east of the house, were removed from the applicant's request. Removal of that, the existing sheds, the elimination of the proposed swimming pool, keeping the GFA below 2,400 square feet, and then the establishment of an easement to the west and the addition of a series of dry wells below the proposed sanitary system all stood in favor of approval of the application. However, the concern expressed by residents of both Seaside and Miller Avenue over the potential for increased flooding in the area was carefully considered by the board. And as much as I share those concerns, I do think that the current conditions that allow rainwater to flow unabated down the 78 Seaside Avenue driveway will be improved by the addition of dry wells in the parking area. And I don't see that additional disturbance being proposed to the vegetated buffer that exists along Seaside Avenue at this time. The problem of flooding on Seaside Avenue and Miller Avenue is one that relates to conditions that exist throughout the immediate area, and flooding will undoubtedly continue on these private roads. But I don't see that the construction of this proposed residence will add to that problem. A structure now exists on this parcel that has a driveway that empties onto Seaside Avenue. And with the construction of a new residence, there is the hope that the addition of drainage in the parking area will help to control water flow that is currently unabated. So after a long period of time and us being involved with this application and many back and forths, perhaps too many, we were eventually presented with a redesign of what the initial proposal was that eliminated a couple of the most contentious features, the swimming pool, this detached shed. Our consideration of the septic, the sanitary system, led us to conclude, I believe, that we did not want to see it move any, at least that I did not want to see it move any closer to the wetlands, and that the condition in which it's now going to be proposed to be constructed is one that is probably necessary, not probably, is asserted to be necessary by an engineering firm brought in by the applicant. And so in reference to the request for an NRSP under code 2255-4-20, I don't feel that undue damage will be done to the environment under these conditions. And that in reference to town code 255-4-40, I don't find that an alternative exists that would allow for the construction of the residence and the installation of the sanitary system. Therefore, after careful consideration by, I know, the entire board and all of us, and with great concern for the interest of the locals and the residents in the area, I nonetheless feel that I'm prepared to approve this application. I think that an effort has been made by the applicant to come up with the best possible solution for controlling runoff. And I think that under these circumstances, we are not contributing in a negative way to the conditions that now exist on Seaside and Miller Avenue. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy, or not happy, but I'm willing at this time to approve this application.
Thank you, Ed, for that very thorough assessment. Terry?
Yeah, I'm trying to see on my list here what Ed didn't mention. If as you stated,
I think also that what we're going to do, Terry, just
Yeah.
for Jen, our new counsel, is probably if we could list some of the latest things that is going to go into that part of this decision. I have some of that too. Verify just like the construction protocol, stuff like that.
okay, well, I have some of that written down here. Maybe I don't have the dates on it. I know we got an updated Walbridge survey that was mentioned. There was a revised landscape plan by LaGuardia Design also.
I think that was 11/9/21.
Yeah, I don't have.
I have some of these dates in front of me.
Okay.
So.
All right. Then there was a revised floor plan by Randy Goya.
That's 11/30/21.
I believe so. And revised sanitation and drainage capacity. One thing
That's
to mention that
11/16/21.
yes, and what I did want to mention on that regard, the drainage was set up to actually be able to handle a 3-inch rainfall on the drainage and the protection from the road down there, which is a pretty large capacity. You know, more so.
Normally they design to a 2-inch.
Two, right. But they did do a 3, and that's noted on the Maresca sanitation plan and drainage. We have letters, as Ed had mentioned, from Catherine and Stephen Maresca about what he had reiterated, that they had looked at this and consulted and got third-party reports from by Rayner, I believe. It was a construction code report by Rayner. And so we have the statement of 2 different state licensed engineers in addition to confirm that this was the best that could be done with the sanitation system there. The swimming pool we eliminated, so that took away the 49-foot. No, wait, which one's this pool? The 49.316 and the 49.6 for the swimming pool terrace shed. And in addition to that shed, there are 2 sheds, 2 old dilapidated sheds that are actually located inside the wetlands there, I believe on the west side, and those are going to be removed by hand. There was also bamboo initially proposed to be removed, and Brian Frank, the planning department, did not feel that that was a good fit to put inside this project, and that would be, so they removed that piece of the project also. They also agreed to updated vegetation to make it more woody and understory vegetation. The additional drainage control added that as a result of the neighbors that called in, some of the neighbors that called in are John Chimples, a lot of Johns, John Alters, and John, I can't read my own writing, another John that lived at 29 Miller Avenue, John Alters from 22 Miller Avenue. And the setbacks for the wetlands then became 82 feet setback from the wetland to the west and 84 feet from the wetland to the southeast. I'm not sure the size of the scenic easement exactly. Is that listed on there?
No, but it's shown on the survey, I believe.
Yeah, is it on the survey? Okay, all right. And yeah, the scenic easement, so I know it took 3 hearings. We didn't want 3 hearings, but ultimately, I think this turned out as a win-win on all aspects, for the applicant and for the board and the town. And I think they did a good job on, acknowledging and all the concerns that the planning department and this board had. So I too am looking to approve this project and the Nrsp.
Thank you, Terry. Tim?
I'm in agreement. Appreciate Member Johann's detailed review and Member Berger's additional detail. I'm in agreement with all of it. I would add, for our purposes, that we did receive a letter from Inner Science on December 15th, and on page 2, they clearly stated the new variances that would be required as a result of this application. So we should focus on that. Initially, we had an Nrsp plus 5 variances. Now we have an Nrsp plus 4 with the removal of the swimming pool. Again, on page 2, they list out the exact dimensions of those variances.
Okay, Tim.
Go ahead.
Can we see that? I didn't see that. As a matter of fact, I had been looking for that because I know they said they would submit it. Can we just see what that is? So it clearly lists what's left on the variances?
I'm going to pull it up right now.
Can you?
Yeah,
Thank you,
bring them
Letty.
up, that'd be fine. I would agree that also that the 3 hearings on this were, I would use the word excessive. All told, we had 4 hours and 21 minutes of hearing associated with this application. And personally speaking, I think that the difference between the first and the second hearing was so substantial that it warranted a completely new application. We should have decided on the first application as submitted, and that way in the future applicants will come to us not with their opening offer, but rather their best and final offer. And that's a process issue for this board, I believe.
I agree.
Yep, I agree.
So, and this is, if you go to page 2 of that, Eleni, there it is. The top of that, Terry, would give you the variances that were requested. I thought that of the mounds and mounds of paper that we have associated with this file now, this was one of the most helpful memos that we received because it summarized where we are today, and I think there's a lot of good information here.
Yeah, if I could comment on that, we have talked in the past about, I know our predecessor council had wanted a synopsis like this from any applicant when variances changed by the time we heard an application and decided on it. And I think this would be another good policy to have. I know we specifically asked to do this time.
Yep.
And I think it's a great practice. It's nice and concise and clear as to what's left in terms of the variances.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. And in fact, I
Yeah.
think we could actually use this as a great example of the kind of detailed synopsis that's helpful to us and to the public, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But certainly after almost 4.5 hours of hearings, clearly the board took this application very seriously. We weighed the standards for the Nrsp and for the variances very, very carefully. I think given the constraints of the property and the plan that was finally presented to us did as much as could possibly be done on this location to mitigate the environmental impacts, water runoff, and the variances that were being requested. So I'm in agreement. I believe this meets our standards and would vote to approve this.
Thank you, Tim. And again, members Savarese will be abstained from this. And I do agree with this on all counts. I'm not going to add any further to that. Thank you. Our next discussion is C LLC at 230 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk. Suffolk tax number 300-087-03-9. The size and location is 94,774 square feet total, 200 at 230 Old Montauk Highway. The description: to demolish the existing residence and appurtenances and to construct a 5,359 square foot two-story residence, 120 square foot of sauna, 155 square foot of Hammond, which is the first time I heard that word, 2,056 square foot of patios, 2,005 square foot roof deck, 350 square foot of swimming pool, 2,032 square foot of pool patio, walkways, and fencing on a parcel of land containing coastal bluffs and beaches. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and any other relief necessary. All improvements have been proposed more than 125 feet from the toe of the bluff. The zoning district is A residence zone X flood zone. The secret class is type 2. And I might want to say the next discussion will be Dago LLC. I think we'll need to discuss these separately. Perhaps when we do discuss the other one, we can make reference to whatever pertains from this lot to the next one. But we're going to have to deal with these separately. So C was, I think, Ed, right? Is that you, Ed?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, the attorney, Andy Hammer, did agree and request that the records be, merged.
That's
or
correct.
Used for both. So, yeah.
For a good point. That's correct. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The hearing for this application was held on December 7th, 2021. The survey we're working from is from October 4th, 2021. It's important to note that the ZBA approval for the construction of the house that exists now was issued on March 18th, 2003. The East Hampton Town building permit for the existing structure was issued on June 6, 2003, and the C of O for the same structure was issued on September 10th, 2007. The landscape plan for this current project is dated August 10th, 2021 from LaGuardia Associates, and a re-veg plan from the same source is dated September 21, 2021. As was mentioned, this application is requesting the approval of an Nrsp. There are no variances being requested here. This is a impressive site, and it's going to take careful consideration by the board. It has taken careful consideration of the board to just review the complexity of the issues that are at hand here. This parcel is located on the ocean bluff in Montauk and is associated by a shared driveway and common ownership with 234 Old Montauk Highway. Because of this, several aspects of the construction protocols, the landscape design, and the revegetation planning will be interwoven if these projects were to be approved by this board. Each parcel, however, is being examined and judged, as was mentioned by the chair, individual, based on its own merits. There are several aspects of this project that deserve very careful consideration. Many of these can be addressed through a review of the construction protocols that were issued on October 25th, 2021, and received by us on October 27th. To begin with, as was demonstrated at the hearing through the photos taken during the field inspection of the site, the applicant is requesting permission to demolish a structurally significant building on this parcel that happens to be perched on top of a very sensitive environmental habitat. Accomplishing this task will require a great amount of heavy machine work to remove the existing elevated structure and a series of formidable steel and concrete supports below. At the December 7th hearing, the applicant's representatives were asked about this process, and it was stated that all access to the parcel and to 234 as well would be through the already existing driveway at 230, and that the removal of the house, pool, and pool house on 230 would provide a staging area for the removal of the adjacent home at 234. At that time, we felt this was important because the street front has no access to the existing house on 234. And our concern was just how much destruction would happen along the way. I think it's important that we've been told that the only access is to be through 230 for all future both projects if they were to proceed. This is referenced on page 10 of the construction protocols, where the promise is made that portions of the structure will be reduced in size to manageable pieces and removed neatly to the single driveway, and that the site will be maintained daily in an orderly and considerate manner. Critical during the construction should be the control of rainwater, and also on page 10, item 9, the protocols offer to install dry wells in critical areas, temporarily slope the grade towards these basins, and to ensure that the grade throughout will prevent excessive rainwater from reaching the crest of the bluff. This is, of course, to us, and when you visit the site, absolutely critical for other reasons that I'll get to in a minute. Additionally, the contractor will, according to their issued protocols on page 12, provide shoring to the east of 234 to protect an adjacent property during construction. Particular concern to the board is a depressed area that exists on the common border of the two parcels that leads immediately to and over the crest of the bluff. Special attention must be paid here, where it would be natural for excessive runoff to transport soil and debris down to the face of the bluff and into particularly sensitive environmental areas. Again, this is addressed on page 6 of the TF Engineering issued construction protocols. I reference these items in the protocols because they address particular concerns that the board has had when considering an application of this magnitude. If this application was to be approved and an Nrsp was to be granted, we would look very carefully at the way in which these protocols were to be enforced. The proposed development includes an oceanside impervious patio that extends 10 feet beyond the existing improvements and is not in keeping with Nrsp standards that are designed to protect, in this case, the bluff and its vegetation. Also, a pre-existing patio is set partially down the bluff face, and the applicant has asked that that patio remain. Both of these patios are part of extensive, the pre-existing one pre-exists, but the proposed ones with the new construction are part of an extensive impervious coverage area, which is for me, a particular concern as we move forward. Additionally, the proposed configuration for the new driveway removes a significant amount of existing vegetation, which is also of concern both to the planning board and to us on the ZBA. I think the overall reconfiguration of the lot development represents a considerable amount of work which strains the standards required for the issuance of an Nrsp. Concern has also been raised by the owners of 224 Montauk Highway, and a letter was received by the board on December 7th expressing their fear that the work at 230 Old Montauk Highway might contribute to the destabilization of the bluff, and that the work required to install the proposed driveway would require an excessive amount of clearing of existing vegetation on the parcel. This project is, when you visit the site, and the board has been able to see the photos there, and I'm sure many of us have visited, is a large undertaking. An existing, fairly recently built, structurally impressive building sits here and will have to be removed if this project was to be approved. It immediately raises the question of how we protect the environment. I cited the protocols because if, in fact, this was to move forward, they'd have to be strictly adhered to. I know I've said it before, but you can't help but think that when you're there. Additionally, that depressed area, which is it's approximately, its apex is approximately on the property line between the two parcels, is particularly vulnerable. Now, in their protocols, they have suggested that there will be a belt and suspenders type protection there with two forms of protection against runoff. And of course, this would be absolutely essential if we were to consider moving forward. However, these patios that they have, we look at the original footprint of this building, and it was mentioned in their proposals that they have not exceeded that footprint. They've not exceeded it in the sense of how far the structure extends to the bluff, but certainly in terms of this hardened patio, it does. Additionally, whether or not we were interested in allowing this existing patio that sits down halfway down, or not halfway down, but over the crest of the bluff on the edge of the thing, whether that would be a factor in the future if erosion was to continue, or if there was a particular, result from some storm at the end of some future time. Putting aside the pre-existing one for a minute as pre-existing, my feeling is that what we're looking at here is an extensive redevelopment, and that the increased lot coverage lends me to ask why we would allow to extend 10 foot beyond where we currently have a hardened surface towards the bluff. I think that as a project, it's been proposed in a manner in which we can understand them moving forward in a constructive manner, and having done in hopefully a careful and thoughtful way. I think that the team that's been assembled in terms of the literature that we've gotten, that the material we've gotten to explain the proposed project and the actual configuration of the building has all been well thought out. But nonetheless, this is a big ask. It's a big ask because we're asking to take an area that we have to protect with an Nrsp if we were to grant it, and we're going to have it largely and significantly disturbed during demolition and construction. With that in mind, I am reluctantly in favor of this project, with the hope that we would approve it only allowing the patio to extend as far out as is currently disturbed by the existing structure. You come to a structure like this, and we see them all the time. It's a significant building, and it's coming down, and a lot of work is going to go on here. Because it requires an Nrsp, that is something for us to question. And back to the one other item here, standing there again today, I visited again this afternoon, and standing there again today, the construction of this semicircular driveway is going to call for the removal of quite a bit of vegetation that is mature or fairly mature and exists now and is significant. This is of concern to us. At the time of the hearing, we were told by one of the applicant's representatives that the minimum amount of disturbance would be done, that they would be careful to allow any mature vegetation to stay as best it could, and that the replanting as suggested in the planting plan would be significant enough to offset and mitigate this disturbance. It makes it a marginal approval for me. It makes it a marginal approval because I think that what's happening out at the roadside, and I think what we're asking to do on this large project, pushes the constraints of our standards when we are considering granting an Nrsp. So I'm interested to see what other board members say about this. I'm interested to see how it ties together with the adjacent property when we make that decision, because obviously the way in which we're discussing now, this project would be part of the process in the adjacent property. But having said all of that, and with some real concern, I would be willing to approve this application if in fact we can get an agreement with the applicant that to not install the additional impervious patio that goes now beyond 10 foot beyond that portion of the already disturbed area of the property.
Now, what is that, where is that disturbed? I just want to get clarification. Does it relate to the 125-foot setback line?
No, it doesn't.
So maybe let's take a look at that.
Mr. Chair, the idea is that the footprint of the current house and the patios and the hardened surfaces below that, this would extend beyond the footprint of the current house. I don't see us encouraging or allowing the extending beyond the footprint that already exists in this case, because I do think that the sensitivity of the bluff and the crest of the bluff, we're measuring the 125 feet from the toe of the bluff, of course, is still of enough concern that we would want to, I would want to see that we do not allow us to go beyond the existing footprint.
Okay, and that's relate to the patios, correct? Can we?
Yeah, it's the patio.
You zoom in on that more, or you want?
Excuse me?
And
I
then
thought maybe you could zoom in on it more so you can see it better. No.
yes, so that's that,
That's in that area, yeah.
right. And then what's your opinion on the existing patio? That may be removed or stay? Is that allowed to be stayed?
Yeah, I again, in visiting the site, it exists partially over the cliff. I'm not sure there's an advantage to ask to have it removed. I'm not asking to have it removed.
Okay, so you would allow a pathway to that, but no terracing beyond the previous extent of the building.
That's correct.
Okay. Terry?
Oh, okay. There's a lot going on here. I'm concerned. I have the same concerns. I'm not convinced that it meets the Nrsp standards. I know it meets all the setbacks required. Additionally, they did offer a scenic easement, which I believe is, as discussed, would follow along that bluff crest line.
The 125-foot setback line is what they were referring to.
Yeah, so where, doesn't that follow that bluff crest there? Or where is the 125-foot line there? It was going to your last question of the patio, the pre-existing patio. I think it should be removed. And if the scenic easement covers that, I believe, isn't it required to come out? I'm sorry, Tyler, could you show, where's the 125-foot line?
Sure, the 125-foot line is right here. It's sort of labeled. You can see down here, 125-foot setback to bluff. So it sort of comes across right here, just south of that patio.
Yeah, I think
that patio area down here is in there. And as far as just generally speaking, it would depend on how the easement was written, whether it could stay or not. It could certainly be written to allow it to remain, you know.
I think it should come out, and I would want that to come out. And yes, not have a walkway. We've also talked about a lot of homes on these applications that have, you know, kind of one walkway down to, oh, those are going to be removed. Never mind. Okay. I have mixed feelings on this, you know, for all the reasons that Member Johan stated. The lot coverages are high. I know the applicant's agent sent in a little chart where they compared it to some other homes being done up the road a little bit, but clearly the lot coverages and the building coverages on these two properties are significantly on this property, 230, is significantly higher. I think I have to deny, the patio that Member Johan was talking about, but I'm also concerned that I might have to deny this project entirely, thinking it doesn't meet the natural resource standards, and that there could be an alternative design on this. They have a lot of, it's bothersome that with the coverage that they also have for a sauna and a haram and a pool. Well, the pool they have already, so, but there's just so much being added to this that I'm reluctant to approve it at all. I think it does not meet the standards. 255-420. And I do think that there would be an alternative design that could be done with this project and have some smaller structures. I know in the TAM it was listed that they're meeting all the setbacks and they didn't need any variances. However, that on a redevelopment that they thought there should be improvements to the environmental conditions. And as this is laid out here with the covered terrace and the patio, looks like those improvements are not being made.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. Tim?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to both the Vice Chair and Member Berger for doing the heavy lifting here with all the details. And I share the angst associated with the project. However, I was most impacted by a couple of things, one of which has been said several times, which is that there are no variances requested on this application. It's an NRSP, but otherwise all the improvements comply with all of our variance standards. I also thought the revegetation portion of this ultimately was a really substantial thing and would bring the property back to look really the way much more natural in its look than what it does today. So I am looking to approve this. I am in agreement with Member Berger on the lower patio. I think it would be inconsistent for us to approve that structure to remain. I just don't think that's consistent with the revegetation and everything else that was put forward here. And I think I rather like the Vice Chair's demarcation here. I'd like to be clear about it on where it falls on this survey, and I'm not sure I can. I would be comfortable with saying that no patio below the line of the covered terrace. I don't know if that's exactly the dimension that we were talking about, but I think that probably satisfies what we're talking, what the Vice Chair was suggesting. It's clear. We could make it clear in terms of our determination. But otherwise, I'm looking to approve this NRSP. I believe it meets our standards.
Thank you, Tim. I think that I think we all share the complexity of this project. One of the things that I think gives me comfort on this application is the fact that the builder, who's a very respected builder here, who built the original residence, knows this property, knows the protocol, knows the logistics of this project, and has addressed them. I had a comfort feeling with that. I think that it does, being that there are no variances requested. Oddly enough, the one concern that I have is the common driveway between the two lots. We're approving this survey with a common driveway with the preface that it's under common ownership. What happens if it doesn't continue to be common ownership, what do we do with that? So I don't know if we, oddly, also, being that it is an LLC, obviously an LLC can run with the land too. It could be transferred and it could always be that. So what triggers common ownership? Blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if it's that important to me, but it was just something that I was thinking about. What happens if the common ownership ends at some point in the future? But other than that, I'm more than willing to, and I agree with the removal of the lower patio and the vice chairs for the definition of no further clearing to extend below. And again, the definition is not clear to me either. So let's just go through it. There is on the survey, Eleni, can you try to blow that up? Looking at that patio.
The patio down here.
Oh, Tyler, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yep. Not the existing patio. We're trying to look at and then scroll down. Yep. So we can see that. That's good.
So Tyler, can you just give us the rough sketch of what that patio is from the development up to the covered terrace?
From the patio down here up to
no, the one that extends beyond the covered terrace.
Well, you see the 125 offset line is very close to the extent of that patio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Then you have the covered terrace. Ed, what was your intention?
Well, Mr. Chair, what I was saying is that and I'm very much in agreement with the notion that was put forward by Member Brenneman, and that is to perhaps condition it that no patio extends beyond the covered terrace. But it's initially it was because knowing that patio extends 10 foot beyond current improvements, I didn't see why we would allow ourselves to be put in a position to allow any of this new structure to extend beyond where the previous structure existed. So
doesn't the covered terrace also extend beyond where the current main structure is? Or is it just the patio?
I've been looking through my package. I can't find the sketch that shows both.
There's an overlay. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think that's existing and proposed. There was one for the other property, but I don't know if we have one for this one.
Right.
These are the building plans.
It was a well, it was sort of an architectural diagram that LaGuardia we show October 27. That may not be the latest. An L 2.1. Actually, has both properties listed on this diagram.
But actually, you can see it. You can see it on these surveys. Ed, I think you're right. I think the covered terrace goes to the extent of the old building. Am I right?
I think so. Yes.
So you would be saying that the covered terrace would be the extent of the proposed residence.
That's right.
It looks like that because you can see it's almost right on top of the old line. I would be fine with that.
Can we condition it along the lines of Tim's suggestion that the no patio should extend beyond the limit of the covered terrace?
Yes. I would be fine with that. Terry?
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
denying.
Well,
right?
I know I said, yeah, I might change my mind as this discussion continues, but yeah, I'm not going to say no to that.
Okay.
Since you raised it, Mr. Chair, the question was not examined by myself and I think Member Berger about the driveway. With one driveway and two parcels, what does that mean in the future if the parcels were to be split? Would they be coming back looking for additional access to the road? And if that's the case, is that something that we might have asked them to propose sooner so that we don't have the disturbance of this big circular driveway? But that's late in the game for that suggestion, but I have that same concern you have, and that is that when these parcels are split, if they're split, there'll be no access to 234.
Right, there is even
Well,
common.
I guess they would have to work out an arrangement if they were a different owner for the agree. The whole driveway thing is odd. It comes in and then as you see in this, it goes across all the way to the northeast corner of the adjacent property and then into an underground garage.
Yeah.
To me, it's clearly designed to be.
Well, that's fine. So is the original two parcels, but maybe we just say that we condition this approval on the fact that the driveway forever stays in its proposed location, that it can't be changed. Another way of looking at it.
Well, it says that there's going to be an access easement. So, I mean, I imagine that once that's executed, that stays with the properties.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. Leave it alone, I would think.
I think so.
Regardless, they would have to come back to the board.
Yes.
Okay, we're good? Council?
Just to be clear, Terry, you're still a no?
No, I'll go with it. I'll go with
Go with
it.
it, you're a yes?
With the conditions set forth.
Right, subject to the conditions discussed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. So our next one is Dago LLC at 234 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-087-03-8. Size and location is 90,680 square foot total, 230 at 234 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk. The description. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just thought of something for the other property. In the scenic easement, there is fencing down near the toe of the bluff, or maybe not quite that far down, that exists. And I guess that would need to be removed, right? Since it will be in the scenic easement then. Yeah.
Provided it's not part of a beach restoration.
It's not part of anything. It looks pretty,
Then I would say I would agree. That's fine.
Yeah.
Would that be conditioned in the easement?
No. What?
Would the removal of the fence be conditioned as part of the approval of the easement or the establishment of the easement?
That's what I'm thinking.
No, the easement is already offered. So we're just making a condition of approval overall.
Right.
Okay.
So the fencing has to come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me continue. The description is to demolish on Dago, the description is to demolish the existing residence and appurtenances and to construct a 5,148 square foot residence, a 3,980 square foot of patios, 944 square foot pool and pool equipment, 220 square foot of walkways and fencing on a parcel of land containing coastal bluffs and beaches. The relief sought a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and any other relief necessary. All improvements have been proposed more than 125 from the toe of the bluff. The zoning district, A residence, zone X, flood zone. The secret class is type 2. Okay, Terry?
Okay, so, all right, this is, well, adjacent to 230. It is
You
a
can say
different,
IBID.
what?
You can use the word IBID. That's
Yeah, well, as far as, I was going to say, the construction protocol that was submitted was one construction protocol for both residences. So, the exact pages and all quoted by member Johan are applicable for this property also, with the same concerns of, the transport of workers and the trucking and the demolition. But anyway, let me start here. It's the hearing was also December 7th, 2021. The latest survey we have is dated October 1st of 21. There's the Walbridge survey. Yeah. 10/1/21. We received it on 10/27. The construction protocol we received on 10/27 also, dated 10/25. The revegetation plan, I believe was the latest, was dated 9/28, and we received that on 12/3. Some of the agents were, attorney was Andy Hammer, and land use, Joel Halsey representative. There were a number of people at the hearing. Jim Grimes for some of the revegetation, Jim Kim from Men at Work, and various other people on standby as far as architect for any questions that might come up. Now, addition to this house, there's a house to the east, which I was concerned about with the application for this home. And as it turns out, that's in the same ownership, different LLC. Well, I don't know that. Common ownership to these properties. I don't know the exact legal ownership name. So there's a commonality there. The parking. Page. All right. There were a number of things discussed. Again, one of the major concerns on this was the lot coverage. And this property is proposing a pool. The current house does not have a pool. And you can see where this pool comes. And this is slightly, I believe, Tyler, if you could point it out again, the 25-foot line. This is almost up against the bluff crest where they are proposing the pool. The lot coverage on this is going up very much. Okay, so this is the 125-foot line right here. Some of the revegetation was redone, where you can see on the left side that had been addressed initially in the TAM. There were many more impervious walkways between the two properties, and that had been resolved. The proposed pool, the proposed house, the driveway, as was just mentioned earlier, for the construction protocol, all the access for this this redevelopment of this property would be done from the construction designated area, which is at a lower level off the adjacent property, coming down the driveway that exists there today. And the new driveway, as we saw a little bit of, if you want to go up, we could see where it goes on this side. That driveway is proposed to come across here. Same concerns of the old Montauk Highway. There's a 10-foot buffer by the old Montauk Highway, and there's a lot of nice vegetation in here. And I have the same concerns that more is going to be lost than was indicated at the hearing. And that driveway comes down into this underground garage, which also adds more lot coverage because there's no structure above it. To this particular property. There was also a scenic easement noted for this property. And this also has a fence, like deer type fencing. I don't know the exact height of it. It was hard to get at. Along that runs north to south along this property line. And then as it gets down toward the toe of the bluff, that turns over and moves in a westerly direction, which goes across this property and across the adjacent property. I have the same concerns with this. I maybe even more so. I don't see how this really meets an NRSP standard of I would think that on this one, there might be alternatives available, which would relate, I guess, to the access driveway. But again, with the construction, I don't see how this could work. So I guess on this one, I would look to approve the NRSP with many concerns, except for, I think, the pool. Again, in the TAM, it was addressed that there is no pool now, and that the redevelopment should actually, even though there's no variance required, improve the environment. And I'm very concerned with the pool and the impervious patios all around it, that there would be impact to the bluff at that level. So I would like to deny the NRSP for the proposed pool. And again, there's the scenic easement that was offered going around there, and that the fencing come out relative to that. And can you scroll down a little on that, Tyler? Yeah, so all the other concerns about the construction protocol, I think there was a lot of discussion about traffic, the transport of workers and trucks coming in and out. And there was the Jim Kim made a lot of discussions about how they will get parking passes from the state, so that the trucks would not have to be would not be all over the site as it was. There were a number of neighbors that called up in opposition to this. One was John Perlman at 246 Old Montauk Highway. He was concerned about the stability of the bluff and the integrity and the intensity of use of the property. Madeline Van John called up, Tarbert and Lester called up representing Lillian Schneider of 224 Old Montauk Highway. And her client also was concerned about the stability of the bluff and the clearing. And they were concerned about any seaward expansion at all from the present structure. There was one more person from the public that called up. Her concern was about pile driving, and it was discussed by the construction by Jim Kim that there are no piles in this application that will be driven. However, there is a lot of stone and impervious tile and stone that will be broken up. They specified that the construction would be done, and they will try to repurpose or some of the materials and take them out by truck. And some of the, just to note, I guess, some of the driveway that is up by Old Montauk Highway is also out of NRSP jurisdiction. And I think that is all I have on that. I will approve the NRSP, but I do think the proposed pool can be relocated, pushed back closer to the main structure of the house, the pool and the patio around it, to give some space before the scenic easement.
Okay. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this is a repeat, very close to a repeat of what we've just discussed in terms of the sensitivity of the site, the protocols, the general disturbance to the area, and the method in which the house would be demolished and then rebuilt. As was pointed out by the protocol in the discussion that night of the hearing, when we questioned Mr. Kim about this, he said that they would be coming in at the driveway at 2:30 exclusively. They would demolish 2:30, that house, and then use that site as a staging area for the demolition of 234. 234 would then be removed the same way 230 was, out the similar driveway. They said that they would break this building up into small bits and do the best they could to make minimum disturbance to the neighbors in terms of the heavy equipment and whatever demolition that took place that would be potentially disturbing to the neighbors. That's was all presented pretty evenly to us and clearly. And we can take, as was brought up before, I think by you, Mr. Chair, that these are people of significance in the construction industry, and I think we take their word that they will work as conscientiously as possible. However, I have to agree with Member Berger, and that is that the way in which this redevelopment is extending closer to the bluff is a little concerning, or more than a little concerning. The fact is that this structure is closer to the crest of the bluff than is 230, and by extending the pool to where it is, it really is pushing out much closer than I would be comfortable seeing that work to be done. There'll be an excavation there. There'll be some effort, of course, to stabilize, but I think we're asking a lot of this site to allow it to, of this project to allow it to proceed as far to the south as they are proposing. So there are several concerns about, in general, what's going on. I think the driveway has been brought up again. I think that we have to remember that the combination of two projects, even though we're considering them individually, is a long period of certain amount of demolition. However, if the protocols are to be followed, I can see that. I will agree with Member Berger, though, that under these circumstances and these conditions, I would love to see a rethinking of the swimming pool and a redesign. So I will agree with her almost exactly in saying that I could approve the Nrsp for the construction of the building, but I would like to see the swimming pool and that area around the swimming pool, the hardened patio, reconsidered and perhaps either eliminated or redesigned before we would have any approval for that. So I am not interested in approving the pool, but I will approve the structure. Thank you.
Yeah, just for clarity, the nexus for not including the pool, I think we had a clearer nexus on the last one. What do you think the nexus, and is it in your mind extending again, like the previous one, we said we didn't want to see the clearing extended anymore. Is that the same thing here?
I believe it is. Tyler, the current house, this comes closer to the bluff crest than the existing house does today. Let's just verify that.
And there's going to be a major retaining wall on the south side of that pool too, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So this shows the existing in blue, the existing house, and then the proposed in red, and then the existing patio is in yellow, and the proposed is in green. So yeah, the green patio does come further down. I think that's correct. Yeah, proposed patio is in green. So you can see it coming further south.
Just the patio? Well, there's no pool today. There is no pool.
Well, correct. Yeah, they're just showing on this. They're just showing the outline of like the patio area.
What's
Obviously,
the existing, Tyler? What color was the existing?
The existing is blue, the house, and then
Okay.
yellow, the patio, and then proposed is red and green, house and patio.
Tim, maybe we send it to Tim and then we can have a discussion back on this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I'm in agreement with the NRSP approval for the home for the reasons that have been stated. I do feel like, for consistency's sake, we should follow a similar line of thinking here. And so the extension to the south of this, beyond what was developed previously, I think represents, the biggest concern. And we're not here to, redesign what they've proposed. I think the fact that they've extended below the prior improvements is the biggest issue. And so I think I would support the denial of the pool as well, with the request that there be a redesign, a reimagination of this to substantially tighten this up so that we're not dealing with this same issue. In this case, it does appear to me that we're right on top of that 125-foot line, whereas in the last application, we're actually farther back than that. So I would stick with the idea that we would like to see the improvements north of what the prior improvements were, or at the very least, no farther than where they were. And this, a pool is never going to be configured exactly that way, but this combined with the additional patio is certainly southward of it. So I would be in agreement then with the vice chair and with Member Berger on their overall assessment on this.
Well, can I, just for the argument's sake, and for discussion, actually, for further discussion, I just want to be devil's advocate here. Let's work this out. Is the pool is actually going to be going over already pre-developed areas. So we're not really doesn't look like we're extending the clearing. I think, though, that we are extending the limit of construction. Ed, what's your thought on that?
I think that beyond the fact that we're extending to the south with new work, we are putting a structure there. It's not a mere patio. We're going to be. It's a much more involved structure than a patio, than existing patio. Exactly, and it's in an area that we traditionally show great caution and sensitivity when we're talking about approving a pool. And this one, as was pointed out by Member Berger, is really pushing the limits of the 125, and also the crest of the bluff is very close here in comparison to what's on the other project. If this was a mere patio, the discussion might be a little different. I think we still wouldn't want to see it, but to me, it's a very red flag when we try to put a pool that close to the crest of the bluff with that kind of construction. And it looks to me as if there's space for them to pull it back and get into the area that was disturbed, or to, as you said, or someone said, reimagine it. I wouldn't be comfortable approving extending beyond the already disturbed area with this pool, period.
My point being, the disturbed area engulfs where the proposed pool. Is that right? But I think there's a danger to the pool close to the bluff crest, and I think the pool is too close to the bluff crest. And I think there should be a separation, a greater separation. I think therefore that does not meet the NRSP as well.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I'm in favor of denying the proposed pool. What would be the extent then of the construction? Because you have the generator, you have the pool. What are we looking for? You have that trellis line. That's a proposed trellis, right?
Proposed trellis.
If we say we're going to deny the pool, they can essentially argue that they can come back and leave the existing terrace. And again, I'm being devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm. The existing
Terrace.
patio.
Yes.
Well,
Instead of
it's a complete redevelopment. So I don't, we're looking at this like it's a blank
Good.
page.
All right, okay, Tim, I'll go, I got that.
So, I think what the board is saying, and I'm very comfortable with this, is that the proposed pool is too close to the bluff crest. It's extending farther south than the current development. It's a substantially greater development than just a patio. Disturbance. And it does appear to us that there could be alternate designs here for them to perhaps make the pool slightly smaller, to perhaps configure it, reimagine it a little bit differently, that gets it a little tighter, that doesn't represent creep southward from the prior development.
Okay. Good.
I think that's consistent on both applications.
I agree. I totally agree. I'm in favor of that. Council?
Got it.
Yep, there
You
we go.
got it. Good. All right. Thank you, guys. Next one.
Can we, considering the sensitivity that with the construction protocol and all the things they say they're going to do, is there something we could put to maybe have them, they mentioned in the construction protocol, doing reports, either getting copies of that or a report to the board during the progress as this goes on?
You should be able to do that. If they're already handing them over to the planning department, we can put in the determination that it gets shared with the board by the planning department.
Are they giving them to the planning department? I thought that it's something that they were going to get a third party. At the page in the.
Yeah, I was confused whether it was this one or the previous one, Bleecker Street, that is getting a third party, but I think Bleecker Street was getting a third party.
I saw something about.
That was Vinnie Gordiello overseeing.
Was that okay? That was that one. Check contact. Oh. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you. So next we have Michael O'Connell at 97 South Essex.
This one, it was going to close today. We had been asked to have this closed, leave the public record open till today. And there was a submission that did not come in, or came in, but it was inadequate.
On which application?
On 97 South Euclid Avenue.
South Essex, right?
Euclid. It's on the corner of Essex and Euclid.
Yeah.
It's 97 South Euclid. So we didn't get that. I spoke to Marco today. He had gotten it for the planning board, but the zoning boards wasn't submitted properly. So Laura is waiting on that. I think she was going to contact the agent, who was Andrew Strong. And I don't think we got that in today. So I would like to keep this record open, if I can make a motion to keep the record open, and then maybe we could handle that one next week.
Was this a submission after the record closed?
Well, the record was due to close today. So does that mean it's closed now, or it's not closed? It's still today.
The record was due to close today? Hold on.
Well, let's take a look at the.
That's what they had requested a while back, to
let's
leave it
just
open
take-
till today.
Let's take a look at the chart, which I can pull up.
Well, in your chart, that's what it had, I think.
But today the record closed?
Yeah, Andrew Strong had definitely requested to leave the record open until February 8th. And then the submission sort of came in, but not with the proper data or proper submissions. So I know they were reaching out, and we're reaching out to the agent to get the proper information submitted.
And this is on O'Connell.
Yeah.
But it still sounds like we should factor in
Yeah.
whatever was submitted.
I have the record closing on February 8th. You're correct.
So we should technically have time to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, we have time. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
if something
what I'd
was
like to
submitted-
do is, I guess, table this, but is it closed or it's not closed? Because today's the 8th.
Today's the 8th. If it came in today, then it's on time. If it comes in tomorrow, it's not on time. So if there is a motion to keep the record open for a longer period of time in order to look at that, you can keep it open for a week, a few days, whichever you'd like.
Yeah,
So
I think I would.
The submission was received, stamp received here at the ZBA January 26th. So
Oh.
I will get that to you all.
So we can leave then the record closed and let January 26th be the point that the record closed? Is that, or no, February 8th?
Did you get what you needed, Laura? Did they submit what they had to submit?
Yes. So I will distribute that to the board and you all can review it.
That's
Oh, okay.
perfect. So you don't
So
need
we
to
can
keep
leave
the
it
record.
closed, and then we could put it on for next week if you want. Fine, whatever.
You could table it for,
Table it
for your next work session if you want,
We
depends on
can
how
do
much
it
time
in
you
the
need.
next work session too.
Yeah, we have plenty of time
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah, whatever. Okay,
Okay,
So you want
Sounds
to table
good.
that?
yep.
yeah.
Okay. Is there a, do you need a motion on that? Motion to table?
I don't think so.
We don't need the motion then.
We don't need a motion to table, right?
I don't think we do.
I don't think you do either. I mean, it never hurts.
So we can have a motion. Terry, you want to give a motion to table that until our
I
next
gotta
work
find
session?
my schedule, that the things are just disappearing here.
Or I have it open. I can make that motion too if you want.
Sure.
Want to make a motion to table it? Okay. I know it's 97 South Euclid. It's the tax map number. I don't know.
That's 300-049-1-13.2.
Correct.
Dash 13.2. Okay.
So,
And-
okay.
Okay, was this for
We have a
Michael?
motion? Go ahead.
Now I'll make a motion for Michael O'Connor at 97 South Euclid Avenue, Montauk, tax map 300-049-13.2.
Dash
To
1 dash
A.
13.
I'm sorry,
Dash
Dash
1
1
dash
13.2.
1-13-.2.2
We got it.
to table this discussion for tonight. And I don't know, you can put it on for next week or whenever.
For next work session even.
Next work session? Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All concur?
Concur. Thank you.
Thank you.
And board members, our next one is Kevin McDermott. We have a request from the applicant to reopen not the hearing, the record for 2 weeks to allow them to submit additional information to us for review. So we can have a motion to reopen the hearing for 2 additional weeks.
Not open the hearing, open the record.
I'm sorry, open the record.
I'll do that, Mr. Chair. So in the matter of Kevin McDermott, 3 Merrills Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-84-3-18, I make a motion to reopen the public record for 2 weeks and then to close it again at that time.
Second?
I'll second it.
I'll second. Oh, okay, I'll concur.
Ed?
I
I
second.
thought he seconded.
Okay,
Seconded.
fine. I concur.
Very good.
Thank
So
you.
that's what they asked for. They want to make another resubmission? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had some additional information that they wanted to put in. So initially the request was for another hearing until I told them that would require all the bells and whistles that go with the hearing. And then they said, we can do it by written submission. There was a follow-up that was going to be made with the building department about the sanitary. So it's really for us, but
Oh, okay.
submissions too. Yeah.
Great. So then we can move on to other decisions. We have Susan George and Susan Polsky, a potential administrative application at 133 Waters Edge in Springs at Suffolk Tax Map number 300-83-7-53.1. And I believe that's John. Is John with us, or?
I'll be covering it for John.
And Tyler, you got it. Go for it.
Sure. So this is just a replacement of an existing bulkhead. This is the survey. The existing bulkhead is down here by the water. I'll pull up the actual site plan. It's a little easier to read. So they're replacing the existing timber bulkhead, vinyl bulkheading now. There's an existing return on the south side. They're going to be adding a new return on the north side of the property. They're going to be revegetating, obviously, after the fact. And one of the conditions that we had suggested was there had previously been a 25-foot buffer associated with a previous application back in 2010 having to do with the swimming pool and things like that, which had been done and is now back to lawn, essentially down to the bluff crest. So we're suggesting that as part of mitigation for this one, that they reestablish that previous requirement that has either been mowed or failed to take hold.
I think, yes. And then Tyler, we discussed this earlier in our pre-meeting. Then I think it's important to say that that buffer needs to come into compliance with that determination in 2010 prior to receiving a building permit for the bulkhead replacement. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so prior to a building permit for this work, they would have to re-establish that revegetation.
Denise, I don't know if you have any comments on this or looked at it or.
Now I have looked at it. If it was just for what exists currently, which is the 146 linear feet of bulkheading, I would be fine with it, but it does not. It's a new construction of the 14-foot return along with new whales, tie rods, dead men, and a 4-foot wide ladder. We don't have any details on the installation. We don't know how it'll affect the shoreline, erosion, the adjoining properties. So in a situation like this, I would like to see it go to public hearing.
Okay, board members, any comments?
I'll support my fellow board members' assessment.
Let's have it go to hearing.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, many times, I mean, we have these applications and we hear all the time about escarpment and stuff like that. I think by right, the applicant does have the right to replace the existing, but thank you.
Public.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have Thomas Comack at 47 South Fulton Street, Montauk, the Suffolk tax map number 300-28-8-2. A letter submitted. And Tyler, you want to review this?
Tyler, you're on mute, probably.
Oh, thank you. So this is an application that the board had approved back in 2014. It included a detached garage as well as some minor work to some decking up here around the house. There are wetlands to the southeast, and there's a large pond here to the south. That's what the wetlands down here, and there's a drainage easement. The applicant or still owner is requesting that a condition that the board had to allow the southern portion of the property, I forget the distance, 20 feet maybe, to revegetate naturally, as well as have a woody border essentially to delineate that. Let me find the condition.
You just went past it. It was.
It's condition E. All applicants shall establish a 30-foot wide no-mow zone landward of the wetlands. The no-mow zone shall be delineated by woody shrubs, and shall be allowed to revegetate naturally. The applicant submitted a letter. I can bring that up if you want to see it, or if you haven't read it yet.
I think we've read it.
Okay, good. And essentially, they're requesting that condition be removed. They also submitted what they had said back in 2014, and it's very similar to what they're saying now. They contend that the no-mow zone won't provide any benefit in conjunction in relation to the improvements that they're requesting. So ultimately, I guess the question for the board is: do they feel that this is a reasonable request? Is there some change in circumstance that warrants changing the conditions of the board's previous approval?
Right. Thank you, Tyler. I'm going to go to the Terry and Ed on this, but it seems like a slippery slope to me, guys.
Yeah.
So, but maybe you can comment on that.
Go ahead, Terry.
No, I don't see that we would just remove a condition from 2014 that a previous board had put in there.
I agree. Ed?
I think in respect for the previous board's decision, there's nothing changed here from the time they made the decision. The contours of the land are the same, and I would think that it's not open for a discussion at this point unless there was some significant change here, and we don't have one. So I'm going to stand with the previous board's decision on this.
Right. Great. Thank you. Tim?
I agree completely. In fact, I understand the prior board's thought process here. I think putting in the woody vegetation would be a little better and more substantial benefit to the wetlands. And so I just don't see any reason here that would prompt us to change a condition.
Thank you. Denise?
I do also respect the previous board's determination and do not think that we should remove a condition.
I agree. I think when a board makes a decision, it deliberates carefully on these decisions. And I think we cannot take that lightly. So I would agree with all of you. Thank you. Next, we have extensions of time. Ingrao, 402 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-22-1-5. They resubmitted new material, new submittals. I think this is what we were asking for. I think it was good. But I don't know, Terry and Ed,
Okay.
Again, I'll turn to you and see what you think, but it seemed it was much more in line what we were asking for.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did we receive what was submitted? When did we receive that?
There was a letter from Mr. Ingrao saying that they recognize the...
Yeah, actually, I saw the letter. Yeah, okay. I take that back. Okay.
And then there was a cover letter from the contractor, JC, to to going along with the schedule.
Okay. Yes, I'm okay with the extension of time on that. Is it written up already, or are we?
I think it needs to be written up.
We still need to bring it. Yeah, I'm okay with the extension of time. I did see the letter.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we raised points, and I think they were addressed by the letter from Mr. Ingrao and also by the, as you pointed out, Mr. Chair, the cover letter from JC Construction. So,
Yep.
I'm okay with this.
All right, Tim, you in agreement?
I am. I'm in agreement with this.
Denise?
My concern was the status of the bridge, and he did address that in his letter, saying it is inspected regularly. And he also did, he was very sensitive to the time that's gone by and that his team's in place to get this project started and completed. So yes, I'm in agreement that we should move forward with an extension of time.
Thank you. Next, we have Gregory Zwerko at 11 and 15 Shore West, Amagansett, the Suffolk tax map number 300-108-02-06. This goes back a couple of years. It's not that very old. And Tyler, you want to fill us in? You might be on mute again.
I can fill you in on that.
Thank you, Amy.
I believe that this was an extension of time done by Brian. They had a recent extension in March of 2021. So they're looking to extend that again now. And nothing has changed since March of 2021. And the planning department felt that this was a reasonable candidate for an extension of time.
Thank you.
This is in my district, so I'm good with this.
I am too.
I am too.
I am too.
I am too. It doesn't seem as if there's any reason to, there are no new factors been brought up at this time, so I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you. So next we have the draft minutes of February 1st.
Yeah, I took a look at them and they look good. I'll make a motion to approve the draft minutes of February 1st for the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals.
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. All right, next we have resolutions. 39 Hoppin LLC. That was a modification.
Yes, all three of these are actually modifications. These were distributed last week. And this is a request to modify a determination March 19th, 2019. Filed March 20th, approving construction of a new 1,100 square foot two-story residence with 520 square foot of decking and new sanitary system within jurisdiction of setbacks and freshwater wetlands. The requested modification is to allow the existing sanitary system to remain as installed and to regrade the area around the sanitary system as proposed. This was reheard on October 26, 2021.
Okay, Terry, I believe this was yours.
It was.
Yeah, it was. And I'm looking for the modification. What day did you send it out?
I sent this one out, I believe, on the 3rd.
The 3rd.
This is Hoppin. 39 Hoppin.
Yes.
That place is Hoppin. If it helps, I can read it in.
No, I just found it. Let me get it.
Second? Okay.
It was on the 2nd.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly familiar with this modification.
You think?
Yeah.
Why am I getting a list of 400 files? Okay, just. Somewhere along the way, I lost the agenda for today. It's in one of the files we talked about. Well, just give me the tax map.
Well,
It's 300 dash
Okay.
31-2-2.
-2. Okay. So for the modification, I make a motion to approve the modification as written for 39 Hoppin Avenue in Montauk, tax map 300-31-2-2.
Second. I'll concur.
I concur as well. Denise?
Denise abstains.
Abstain. Thank you. The next one is Hoppin. Sorry. Where am I go to my? There's Emmanuel Fresco at 19 Isle of Wight Road in Spring, Suffolk, tax map number 300-037-02-006.
This is another rehearing. This was also Terry's territory here. We had it on. I'm sorry?
That was mine, Springs.
Sorry, Spring. I have it as Terry giving you so we should make that change. You gave that
Yes.
presentation on Fresco?
Yes.
All right, we will make that change. This was a request to modify a determination dated January 26, 2021, and filed on January 27, 2021, approving the construction of a 512 square foot swimming pool, pool fence, pool equipment, and an upgraded sanitary system on a parcel of land, within 150 feet of wetlands, and to allow a bulkhead to remain, which was replaced in place and kind, and a walkway surrounding the bulkhead to which was expanded by 50 square feet to remain on the property. This is property located on 19 Isle of Wight in Springs. The requested modification is to modify the determination in order to remove all existing decking surrounding the proposed swimming pool and to reconfigure/construct 1,139 square feet of decking and to reduce the size of the approved swimming pool to 360 square feet.
Council, I don't think they were removing the decking around the swimming pool. I think they were adding decking on. I think they were reducing decking on the second floor, and I think they were adding a small amount of decking on the one side of the pool, which the other one was remaining.
I believe that's correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has time for it to be rewritten, so I can revise it as such and provide a updated copy anyway, because I have to put the correct.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that until now.
That's all right. That's why I try not to wait until the last day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can revise that. And I'll share it with you, and that way we'll have it straight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that one will be tabled until next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is Terry Cepedino.
Mhm.
Cepedino.
I think that was Terry's.
That was mine, yeah.
That one's yours, Terry. We know.
Okay. For the modification.
Terry and I worked hard on this.
For
You didn't know
Jerry.
which one it was.
Right.
I said this was the one we worked hard on because we got.
Yes, I know.
I had the survey burden.
Yeah, which is east and which is west.
Which is
Okay.
east and which is west, literally.
Make a motion for Jerry Tepedino at 117 Central Avenue in Amagansett, tax map 300-176-02-1, to approve the resolution amending determination as written.
I'll second.
Concur.
I concur as well. Yep, thank you. All right, council, do you have anything else?
I do not, unless you guys feel like hanging around.
No. Thank you. Vice Chair, can we get a motion from you?
Yes, you can, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for February 8th, 2021 at 8:26 p.m.
Thank
You
you.
mean 2022?
Oh,
Motion?
Oh,
Second?
2022.
A second?
Stand corrected.
concur.
Concur.
Kirk?
Concur as well. And thank you for a great discussion tonight, guys. And thank you. Good
Great
night.
job.